All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Atlanta Falcons in today's video. This is such an intriguing football team. You're obviously hiring Raheem Morris and then adding Kirk Cousins in the offseason. And then, nice little draft. Matthew Judon, Justin Simmons, most recently additions in the last month or so. And between, free agent acquisitions or, contract extensions, whatever the case is, the Atlanta Falcons have spent or handed out more than $220 million in guaranteed money since the end of last year. So this team is ready to win right now, and they're sick of not winning. You look at the Falcons, and it's such an interesting thing because you're a couple of days away from the week one kickoff against the Pittsburgh Steelers, which, by the way, I think is a really good matchup for Atlanta, just considering Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. There are sack issues in the last couple of years with different teams. The Steelers' offensive line's a little bit banged up. We'll talk about that pass rush because it's going to be the difference maker, in my opinion, for the Atlanta Falcons this season. But, it's just weird because this is one of those teams where if somebody from the future came down to me right now and was like, the Atlanta Falcons make the Super Bowl, they make the NFC Championship game, it would not be shocking at all. It would be weirder that somebody just told me the future or somebody came from the future, but you get the outlook here. The Falcons on paper are a really good football team. I can't get nitpicky. Do they have the pass rush for it? Do they have the wide receiver depth for it? You can't get nitpicky for all 32 teams in the National Football League, though, folks. The Falcons have gone through 3 straight consecutive seasons, finishing 7-10. 2020, 4-12, the 2 years before it, 7-9, and then you had, the 10-6 year, and then the 11-5 year in 2016 with the Super Bowl loss. But not even trying to get into that. I apologize I even brought it up. But before we get any further into today's video, if you guys enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content, along with a couple of Falcons videos every single week. Falcons fans, NFL fans, we could try and get this video to 200 likes for the start of the season. That would mean the absolute world to me. So one of the reasons I'm making this video is because, I saw it's the opening week of the regular season. So there's article after article, headliner after headliner. And I was reading an article where they were ranking every NFC team. And they had the Atlanta Falcons at 8. And it was, I think the Bears were like 7, just for some context here. People are really concerned about 3 things that I've seen from mainstream football media. Number one is Kirk Cousins' Achilles injury. Personally, in 2024, even being his age, I just think modern day medicine is so good that you should not worry about Kirk Cousins' Achilles injury from last season unless it becomes a clear, obvious issue. So let's wait and see with that, because we haven't seen him play in the preseason. It might take him a couple of games, like it does for every football player, but it might take a couple of games for him to get back into the groove of things. You don't want to start off how Minnesota started off last year. So, getting that week 1 win against the Pittsburgh Steelers with brand new head coach, brand new quarterback, a bunch of new weapons on the defensive side, especially, that would go a very long way. But another one big issue I keep seeing with the Atlanta Falcons is, and I'll use this excerpt. This was one of the quotes. They did anonymous executives kind of ranking, all the teams in the league. And, the NFC, like I said, the Atlanta Falcons were 8. And here's what somebody had to say about it. The biggest Falcons skeptics on the panel thought Cousins would be vulnerable behind Atlanta's offensive line. I think that's the perfect prime example of the Atlanta Falcons kind of disrespect, or just more so of an unawareness of the Atlanta Falcons offensive line. It's, PFF ranked them, I think it was like 5th in the NFL. It might have even been 2nd in the NFL, but they were a top 5, top 6, top 7 at worst offensive line in the National Football League last season, and everyone's back. So the offensive line issues I don't see that in any way, shape, or form. The Kirk Cousins previous injury from this past year, I don't see that. I can understand some worry or some, not pessimism, but like just more of a, let's wait and see how Kirk Cousins comes out of the gate. I totally understand that. And then finally, you have the pass rush. And, the pass rush is definitely something to keep an eye on. But keep in mind, the Falcons obviously traded for Matthew Judon a couple of weeks ago. Now, he is 32 years old. He's coming off a bicep tear that feels absolutely, I'm sure, terrible. And so he missed 13 regular season games last year. But he's still the best Falcons pass rushing guy on the roster. No one else on the team had more than 7.5 sacks in a single season. 32 years old, but in 2021, he had 12 and a half sacks. He had 15 sacks in 2022. And last year, he was averaging a sack per game before tearing his bicep in week 4. So I feel extremely good that they added Matthew Judon to this pass rush. I was urging every team, especially teams like the Chicago Bears, who could use another edge rusher as well. I was just begging all these teams. If that, like, you look at the Matthew Judon trade and what the Falcons gave up, and it's like, why are a lot of teams not going into it? But then I'm not thinking about it, the contract dispute. But Matthew Judon is clearly excited and happy to be an Atlanta Falcon, and he wants his play on the field to determine how much money he ends up getting. I saw a great article, and they were kind of outlining a hidden gem for the Atlanta Falcons. And this is a dude who's flown under the radar. And I think most Falcons defensive players have flown under the radar. You look at this defensive line on paper, I see, Zach Harrison, I see Matthew Judon, I see Grady Jarrett, I see David Onyemata. Very underrated, right? Very under-recognized. Zach Harrison entering his second year. He had a really intriguing rookie season, a former third-round pick out of Ohio State, played in 16 games, started 0 of them, 33 total tackles. He ended up having 3 sacks. Zach Harrison could be a breakout candidate entering his sophomore campaign. But then you have Arnold Ebiketie, and he's really intriguing. He was 20th in the league last year in pressure rate, 17.2%. That you have to play more than 100 pass rush snaps, but he only finished with 6 sacks. But this is a depth player, and I just think it's a really good example of some of these guys, the Atlanta Falcons, young guys that these Atlanta Falcons have, Arnold and Zach, in their back pocket that could be poised and should be poised for breakout, sophomore campaigns or what have you. Atlanta is last in the NFL in sacks in the last 5 years, and they're last in sacks in the last 10 years. But the good news is in 2023, the Falcons actually doubled their sack total from 21 to 42. Now, they still finished 21st in the league, but a lot of new pieces on the defense side. Obviously, you have a brand new head coach in Morris. He spent the last 3 years with the Los Angeles Rams as the defensive coordinator, and they were 11th in the NFL in sacks at 129 in his 3 years there. So I think the coaching is there. I think the roster is there, and now everything just needs to come together. And you look at the NFC South, and I think Tampa Bay is still a very good football team. They're a very good football team. I think both of these two squads can easily be 10-7 teams, but it's probably just going to come down to their personal matchups. It's probably just going to come down. I know the Saints. I don't think the Saints are looking very good. I don't think the Panthers are looking good, maybe long-term in a couple of years if Bryce Young and, Dave Canales can figure that out. But the point is, Atlanta's got a really good look at winning 10, 11, 12 football games this upcoming season and having a home playoff game for the first time in, I don't even want to know the answer. So that's it for me. Hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. And folks, give me your thoughts on the Atlanta Falcons defense down below. Where do you guys think they will rate across the NFL by the end of the regular season? That's it from me. Probably no video until Sunday. So hopefully we'll see you Sunday night with a victory recap video. Peace.